Hi everyone, Nathan here with ATC Cooling and Heating, and today we're going to answer a question that really comes up a lot lately, and that is, should you switch your furnace over to a heat pump? But first, let's start with what makes a furnace and a heat pump a heat pump. A furnace is defined largely by the fuel it consumes. Furnaces burn a fuel, natural gas, propane, or heating oil are all common fuels, and then captures that heat from the fuel burning by pushing the fumes through a heat exchanger. Furnaces are rated by BTU input and by AFUE, which stands for Annual Fuel Utilization Efficiency. A furnace may have an input of, say, 90,000 BTUs and an efficiency of 92% AFUE, and thus this furnace burns about 1 gallon of propane, which is 91,500 BTUs, per hour, and that's the equivalent of just less than a therm of natural gas, and converts 92% of that energy into heat for the home. Heat pumps are different. A heat pump doesn't burn any fuel at all, but instead, using electricity, it compresses a refrigerant and pumps that refrigerant through piping between the outdoor unit and the indoor fan coil. To understand how a heat pump works, think of an air compressor. Ever put your hand on the side of an air compressor while it's working? Well, you'll notice that it's warm. Compressing air causes it to gain heat. If you let that air out quickly through the nozzle, you will note that the air is cold. Decompressing air becomes cold. A heat pump works on the same principles. On one side of the compressed refrigerant, it gets warm, while on the other side is cool. Heat pumps are defined by their output too. A 3-ton heat pump makes about 36,000 BTUs of heat and cooling, depending on the cycle, and the efficiency is measured in something called HSPF, which stands for Heating Seasonal Performance Factor. But to make things easier, let's convert to COP, which stands for Coefficient of Performance, and really COP is more like efficiency. And HSPF is 2.3 COP, or about 230% efficient. 230% efficient, you're going to tell me that sounds impossible. But since a heat pump isn't creating heat or cooling energy, only moving heat energy, it's more efficient than burning a fuel. Okay, when you wrap it all together, the deciding features between furnaces and heat pumps, they come down to these 4 things. Your cost to operate, the comfort you get out of your system, its longevity, and a factor about outdoor temperatures. For cost to operate, we must consider both efficiency and fuel costs. And in the end, it is hard to beat natural gas. Natural gas is so inexpensive, only the very highest efficiency and rather expensive heat pumps can even compete. Remember, it's about efficiency and cost of fuel. But when contrasting to propane or heating oil, heat pumps come out much less expensive to operate. Even in high-cost electricity areas, I'm looking at you, New York, heat pumps are competitive with natural gas and soundly beat propane and heating oil. Now there's one caveat to this issue, though I'll get to that in just a minute. Next, let's talk about comfort. Furnaces are almost always more comfortable than heat pumps. And the reason why has to do with output temperatures. Heat pumps heat the air coming out of the vents to about 85 to 92 degrees. Warm enough to heat your home, but a gas furnace has an output temperature of 100 to even 120 degrees, and an oil furnace is even warmer at about 140 degrees. Warmer temperatures at the registers mean better comfort. 90-degree air blowing on you in the winter can still feel cool, but 120 or 140 degree air will always feel warm. Be careful how closely you place your easy chair to your heating vent if you have a heat pump. Next, let's talk about lifespan. The average life of a heat pump is pretty close to a furnace. Think 12 to 18 years for a heat pump versus maybe 15 to 20 for a furnace. But importantly, you do get the added bonus of air conditioning out of your heat pump. You would need to add a separate air conditioner to get the same benefit from a furnace. Heat pumps are really 2-for-1 specials. Lastly, there's the issue of outdoor temperatures. I mentioned this earlier. Heat pump efficiencies are measured at an outdoor temperature of 47 degrees. and those efficiencies go down as the outdoor temperatures fall. And at some point, which varies by unit and is usually around 15 degrees, a heat pump is just not making much heat at all. And at that point, it needs a backup for colder temperatures. So the best answer is not to replace your furnace with a heat pump, but to add a heat pump to your furnace. You already have air conditioning, it would be to upgrade your air conditioner to a heat pump. A heat pump for air conditioning and for heating in milder temperatures where it is super efficient, and a furnace for backup when it gets really cold. Now if you live in a moderate climate, then you could probably get away with just a heat pump and an electric heat kit, which is kind of like a toaster element, for the rarely needed backup if it gets really cold. And if you live in a really cold climate with little need at all for air conditioning, then you're loving your furnace all by itself. But for most homes, having both a furnace and a heat pump, consider that the heat pump is just an upgrade to your air conditioner, that's the way to go. If you have any questions about heat pumps, furnaces, or really anything HVAC, leave a comment here or visit us at atcservice.com. Thanks for watching.